The Galactic Council chamber buzzed with alien voices as Admiral Sarah Chun stood before the massive assembly. Representatives from dozens of species filled the curved amphitheater, their various forms creating a rainbow of colors and shapes. The human delegation felt small among the towering Zarkonians and the floating energy beings of Sector 7. Humans wish to join our defense fleet? Ambassador Zex of the Zarkonian Empire clicked his mandibles in what passed for laughter among his kind. With those primitive vessels? Sarah kept her face calm as holographic displays showed Earth's newest warships. The U's Defiance and UES Resilience hung in space like metal whales, their hulls scarred from construction welding. Compared to the sleek Zarkonian dreadnoughts or the crystal ships of the Ethereal Collective, human vessels looked like flying scrapyards. Our ships may not look fancy, Sarah said, but they get the job done. More clicking filled the air. The ethereal representative, a being of pure light named Luminara, spoke in musical tones. Your species has been spacefaring for barely a century. Our ships have shielding technology that predates your civilization. Captain Chun Yung-hoon of the Defiance shifted uncomfortably in his seat beside Sarah. His ship was his pride, even if others couldn't see it. The thick armor plating, the redundant systems, the repair bays that could fix damage mid-battle, all dismissed as crude by these advanced aliens. The Zarkonian fleet commander, General Zircon, gestured with one of his 4 arms. Human vessels cannot even match our speed. How can they defend against the Void Swarm that approaches our borders? Sarah had heard of the Void Swarm, a race of machines that consumed entire star systems. They were heading toward this galaxy cluster, and the Galactic Council was preparing for war. Give us a chance to prove ourselves, Sarah requested. Very well, Ambassador Zex said with obvious amusement. Your quaint fleet may join our forces. Perhaps you can serve as supply runners while real warships handle the fighting. The Korean engineer Min Jun whispered to his colleague Seo Yeon. They don't understand what human engineering can do under pressure. As the meeting ended, Sarah walked with her team toward their shuttle. The other species continued their casual dismissal of human capabilities. They spoke of their energy shields, their plasma cannons, their faster-than-light maneuvers as if humans were children playing with toy boats. Admiral, Yung-hoon said quietly, my crew is ready to show them what the Defiance can do. Sarah nodded. She had seen the test runs, watched human ships take damage that would cripple alien vessels and keep fighting. Earth's military doctrine was different, built around surviving hits rather than avoiding them, around fixing problems instead of having perfect systems. The shuttle bay of the Defiance hummed with activity as they returned. Chief Engineer Min Jun was already running diagnostics on the ship's main systems. The fusion reactors that powered their weapons might be less elegant than antimatter cores, but they were nearly impossible to disable completely. Status report, Sarah ordered. All systems green. Admiral, reported Communications Officer Seo Yan from her station. The Resilience and our escort frigates are ready for deployment. Through the viewports, they could see the magnificent alien fleet assembling. Zarkonian ships gleamed like jewels, their hulls smooth and perfect. Ethereal vessels seemed to be made of captured starlight itself. The insectoid hive ships moved in perfect formations, each one a work of biological art. And then there were the human ships, angular, practical, and dismissed by everyone as inferior. Admiral, Yung-hoon said, as he reviewed the tactical displays. Long-range sensors are detecting something massive approaching the outer rim. The Void Swarm was ahead of schedule. Sarah felt her heart rate increase as she saw the size of the enemy force on the screens. Thousands of dark ships, each one designed for one purpose: destruction. Signal the fleet, she ordered. All ships to battle stations. As alarms sounded throughout the human vessels, Sarah couldn't help but think about the alien representative's laughter. They had judged Earth's fleet based on appearance and technology specifications. They didn't understand that humans had learned to fight differently, not with the most advanced weapons, but with the most stubborn determination. The first test was coming, and Sarah was ready to prove that sometimes the best ship isn't the prettiest one. It's the one that refuses to give up. Asterisk. The combined galactic fleet moved in perfect formation through the void between stars. Zarkonian dreadnoughts led the advance, their crystalline hulls catching starlight like prisms. Behind them, the ethereal ships drifted like captured nebulae, while high vessels maintained their biological precision in neat rows dot at the rear. Almost forgotten, the human fleet followed. The U's defiance and U.E.'s resilience looked crude beside their alien allies, their metal hulls scarred and patched from countless training exercises. Admiral Sarah Chun stood on the bridge of the Defiance, watching the tactical display. Long-range sensors showed the approaching void swarm as a dark cloud consuming everything in its path. Distance to enemy contact? She asked. 40 million kilometers and closing, reported CO Yeon from the sensor station. The swarm is bigger than our estimates, Admiral. I'm counting over 3,000 vessels. Captain Jung-hoon studied his tactical screen with concern. Their ships are strange. No life signs, no standard power signatures. Just ... Emptiness moving through space. On the main communication channel, General Zircon's voice crackled through. Human vessels, maintain your position at the rear. This battle requires precision and speed, qualities your ships lack. Sarah gritted her teeth, but responded professionally. Understood, General. Human fleet standing by. The first wave of void swarm ships came into visual range, and the sight chilled everyone who saw them. They were black as space itself, angular shapes that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. No windows, no obvious weapons, just predatory forms sliding through the void. All ships, came Zircon's command. Engage. The alien fleet opened fire with weapons that painted space in brilliant colors. Zarkonian plasma beams lanced out in precise purple streams. Ethereal ships unleashed cascades of energy that looked like liquid starlight. Hive vessels fired coordinated volleys that moved like swarms of angry insects. The display was beautiful and terrible. For a moment, it seemed the advanced alien weapons would sweep the void swarm away. Then the enemy fired back. Dark beams erupted from the void ships, not light, but the absence of light. Where they struck the alien vessels, shields flickered and died. The carefully coordinated alien formation began to waver as ships were forced to maneuver desperately. Their weapons drain energy, Minjun observed from his engineering station. They're not just destroying the alien ships, they're feeding on their power sources. Sarah watched in growing alarm as the lead Zarkonian dreadnought suddenly went dark. Its beautiful crystalline hull became a lifeless hulk drifting through space. General Zarkon, your flagship is dead in space, Jung-hoon reported into his communicator. Impossible, came the reply from a secondary vessel. Our shields should have held, but they hadn't. The void swarm seemed designed specifically to counter the advanced energy-based weapons and defenses of the Galactic Council races. Ship after ship fell silent as the dark beams drained their power systems completely. Admiral, Seo-yeon called out urgently. The alien fleet is falling back. They're retreating. Sarah could see it on her screens. The magnificent alien warships, so confident just hours before, were fleeing from an enemy they couldn't fight effectively. Their advanced technology had become their weakness. Human fleet, Zircon's voice was strained now. Can your vessels provide cover for our withdrawal? This was it, the moment Sarah had been waiting for. All human ships advanced to combat positions. Engines to full power. The Defiance surged forward, its fusion drives pushing the ship toward the enemy. The Resilience and the escort frigates followed, their simple but powerful engines outpacing the retreating alien vessels. "Ma'am," Jung-hoon asked, "what's our battle plan against these things?" Sarah smiled grimly. "We shoot them with bullets." The crew exchanged glances. While the aliens had been perfecting energy weapons for millennia, humans had stuck with kinetic weapons, railguns, missiles, and good old-fashioned explosives. It seemed primitive, but now it might be their salvation. "Contact in 30 seconds. Suo Yan announced. The void ships turned their attention to the approaching human fleet. Dark beams lanced out, striking the Defiance's hull. But instead of draining power systems that weren't there, the beams simply scorched armor plating. "Damage report?" Sarah called. "Minor hull scarring on decks 7 and 8, Min-jun reported. "All systems functioning normally." For the first time since the battle began, Sarah felt hope. The Void Swarm's weapons were designed to drain advanced energy systems, but human ships ran on simple fusion, reactors, and used kinetic weapons that didn't rely on exotic physics. "All ships," she announced to her fleet, "show them how humans fight. Asterisk." The used Defiance shook as another dark beam struck its hull, but the lights stayed on. Around the bridge, human crew members worked calmly at their stations, while alien ships continued fleeing in the distance. "Return fire," Admiral Sarah Chon commanded. The Defiance's main railgun turrets swiveled toward the nearest void ship. Unlike the elegant energy beams of their alien allies, human weapons were crude and direct. Tungsten slugs accelerated to incredible speeds by electromagnetic fields. Simple, physics applied with devastating effect. The first salvo struck the void ship's hull and punched clean through. Where alien energy weapons had been absorbed or deflected, human kinetic weapons simply smashed their targets apart with raw momentum. "Direct hit," reported Jung-hoon from the tactical station. "Target is venting atmosphere and debris. Target their engines next," Sarah ordered. "Let's see how well they maneuver without power." On the engineering deck, Min-jun monitored the ship systems with growing confidence. The void beams that had crippled alien vessels were barely scratching human armor. "Admiral, their weapons seem designed to drain exotic matter reactions and quantum field generators. Our fusion reactors are too simple for them to affect." Seo Yeon looked up from her communications console. "I'm getting frantic calls from the alien fleet. They want to know how we're surviving the void weapons." Sarah almost smiled. Hours ago, those same aliens had mocked human engineering as primitive. Now that primitive technology was keeping them alive, the Resilience moved alongside the Defiance, its own railguns pounding void ships into scrap metal. Captain Maria Santos had trained her crew well. They maintained steady fire, even as enemy beams washed over their hull. "Defiance, this is Resilience," came Santos's voice over the comm. "My engineering team reports something interesting. These void ships seem confused by our technology." "How so?" Sarah asked. "They keep trying to drain power from systems that don't work the way they expect. It's like they've never encountered technology this straightforward before." Sarah nodded. The Galactic Council races had spent millennia perfecting increasingly complex technologies, quantum computers, exotic matter engines, weapons that manipulated fundamental forces. Humans had focused on making things that worked reliably and could be repaired with basic tools. "All human vessels, continue the assault," Sarah broadcast. "Show them what simple engineering can accomplish." The human fleet pressed forward while the alien ships regrouped behind them. Human weapons might lack the elegance of plasma beams or singularity torpedoes, but they were effective. Void ships exploded under railgun fire, their strange hulls unable to absorb or redirect simple kinetic energy. Jung-hoon studied his tactical display with growing excitement. "Admiral, we're actually winning. The enemy fleet is taking heavy casualties." It was true. What had seemed like an unstoppable swarm was being torn apart by human weapons. The Void ship's entire strategy had been based on fighting technologically advanced opponents who relied on energy shields and exotic weapons. They had no defense against creatures who still threw rocks, very fast, very accurate rocks. Incoming transmission from General Zircon. Co. Yan announced that the Zarkonian commander's image appeared on screen, his forearms gesturing in what Sarah recognized as amazement. Human Admiral, your ships are most impressive. How are you achieving this success? We're shooting them with bullets, General, Sarah replied simply. Very big, very fast bullets. Zircon's mandibles clicked in confusion. But your weapons are so basic. Sometimes basic works best, Sarah said. Your ships are marvels of engineering, but they're designed to fight other marvels. These Void ships were built to counter advanced technology. They don't know what to do with simple technology applied effectively. On the main screen, more Void ships fell to human weapons. The elegant aliens watched in wonder as crude human warships tore through enemies that had easily defeated their advanced fleet. Min Jun's voice came over the intercom. Admiral, I'm reading massive power buildup from the remaining Void ships. They're trying something new. Sarah felt her stomach tighten. The enemy was adapting, which meant the easy part of the battle was over. All ships, prepare for whatever comes next, she broadcast. And remember, we might not be the fanciest fleet in the galaxy, but we're the most stubborn. The human crews prepared their weapons and reinforced their battle stations. Around them, space was littered with the debris of Void ships, proof that sometimes the best solution to a complex problem was a simple one applied with enough force. But Sarah knew the real test was still coming. The Void swarm had learned that human ships were different, and now they would adapt their tactics accordingly. The remaining Void ships pulled back into a defensive formation, their black hulls seeming to absorb the light from distant stars. Admiral Sarah Chun watched the tactical display with growing concern as the enemy regrouped. They're learning, Jung-hoon observed from his station. The Void ships are adapting to our weapons. Sarah nodded grimly. The easy victories were over. Now came the real test of human engineering and determination. Admiral, Co. Yan called out urgently. Long-range sensors are detecting something massive approaching from the outer rim. It's huge. The main screen shifted to show a new contact. What appeared was beyond anything they had seen before. A Void ship the size of a small moon, its surface covered in weapon batteries and armor plating. Smaller ships swarmed around it like insects around a hive. Mothership, Minjun whispered from the engineering station. That thing could destroy entire star systems. Communications crackled as General Zircon's voice came through, tense with fear. Human fleet, we must retreat immediately. The Galactic Council will regroup at the inner colonies. Sarah looked at her crew. Jung-hoon met her eyes with steady determination. Izioyen's hands remained steady on her console, despite the fear in her expression. Min Jun was already running calculations on his screens. General, Sarah replied, if that thing reaches inhabited space, billions will die. We hold the line here. Your small fleet cannot defeat that monstrosity. Zircon protested. Maybe not, Sarah admitted, but we can try. Human fleet. All ships prepare for full engagement. The alien vessels continued their retreat, while the human ships turned to face the approaching dreadnought. The U's defiance, U's resilience, and their escort frigates looked tiny against the massive enemy vessel. Admiral, came Captain Santos's voice from the Resilience. My crew is ready. We'll follow your lead. Sarah felt pride swell in her chest. This was what made humans different. Not their technology, but their willingness to fight impossible odds for something greater than themselves. All ships, attack pattern Delta, she ordered. Target the weapon clusters along that thing's hull. The human fleet accelerated toward the Void dreadnought, their simple fusion drives pushing them at maximum speed. The massive ship's weapons began firing, not the energy-draining beams they had used before, but solid projectiles designed to counter kinetic weapons. The first impacts shook the Defiance violently. Unlike the previous weapons, these were designed to destroy through pure physical force. Damage report. Sarah called out as the ship's lights flickered. Hull breach on deck 12, Minjun reported. Repair teams responding. Structural integrity holding. This was what human ships had been built for, taking damage and keeping fighting. The thick armor plating and redundant systems the aliens had mocked now proved their worth. Return fire. All weapons. Jung-hoon commanded. Human railguns pounded the dreadnought's hull, each impact sending shockwaves through its massive structure. But the enemy ship was simply too big. Their weapons barely scratched its surface. We need a new plan, Sarah muttered, studying the tactical display. Then she noticed something. Minjun scanned that ship's power distribution. How is something that size generating enough energy to move and fight? The engineer worked frantically at his console. Admiral, I'm reading massive power conduits running along the ship's spine. If those are damaged, the whole ship would lose power, Sarah finished. But they're protected deep inside the hull. Jung-hoon looked up from his weapons display. Not necessarily. Ma'am, what if we get inside? Sarah stared at him. You mean ram through the hull? The Defiance was built to take punishment, Jung-hoon said. Our armor is designed to absorb kinetic impacts. If we hit them at full speed, it was insane. It was also typically human. When faced with an impossible problem, find a way to make it someone else's problem. All ships, Sarah broadcast, new plan. We're going to ram that thing and fight our way to its power core. Admiral, Zircon's voice crackled over the comm. That is suicide. Maybe, Sarah replied, but it's our kind of suicide. All human vessels, prepare for ramming speed. The crew exchanged looks of grim determination. They had signed up to protect humanity and its allies. If that meant flying their ship into the heart of an enemy dreadnought, so be it. Engines to maximum, Sarah ordered. Show them how humans end a fight. The Defiance accelerated toward the massive void ship, its fusion drives blazing like a star in the darkness. Behind it, the other human vessels followed, their crews ready to prove that sometimes the most primitive solution was also the most effective. Asterisk. The used Defiance struck the Void dreadnought's hull like a meteor. The massive enemy ship shuddered as human engineering met alien construction in a collision. That sent shockwaves through both vessels. Admiral Sarah. Chung pulled herself up from the bridge floor as emergency lighting bathed everything in red. Around her, the crew worked to restore normal operations despite the violent impact. Status report. She called out through the ringing in her ears. We're inside their hull, Jung-hoon reported, blood running from a cut on his forehead. Structural integrity at 60%, but we're still in one piece. Through the main viewer, they could see they had punched through multiple decks of the enemy ship. The Defiance sat embedded in twisted alien metal like an arrow in a target. The Resilience and escort frigates have also made successful penetration, CO Yan announced. All ships reporting combat ready. Sarah nodded with satisfaction. Human ships had been designed to survive impacts that would destroy more elegant vessels. Their crude, over-engineered construction was finally showing its true value. Minjun, locate those power conduits, she ordered. The engineer worked frantically at his damaged console. I'm reading massive energy flows 3 decks below us. If we can reach them with our weapons, Do it, Sarah commanded. All ships, coordinate fire on the power distribution system. Human railguns, designed to punch through heavy armor, began firing at point-blank range into the dreadnought's internal structure. The tungsten rounds tore through alien metal like paper, seeking the vital energy conduits that kept the massive ship operational. On the bridge of the Resilience, Captain Santos directed her crew with calm efficiency. Engineering, reroute power from life support to weapons. We won't need life support if we don't win this fight. The human ships, embedded like parasites in their host, poured devastating fire into the enemy vessel's most critical systems. Explosions rippled through the dreadnought's hull as power conduits ruptured and backup systems failed. "Admiral," came an urgent transmission from General Zircon. "The dreadnought is beginning to lose power. Its weapon systems are going offline." Sarah allowed herself a moment of hope. The plan was working, but they weren't finished yet. "Human fleet, continue firing until that ship is completely dead," she ordered. "No half measures." The Void dreadnought began to list as its power systems failed one by one. The smaller Void ships that had been swarming around it suddenly went dark as their command ship lost the ability to coordinate them. "Ma'am," Jung-hoon called out excitedly, "enemy fleet is dead in space." "We did it." But Sarah's experienced eye caught something on the tactical display that worried her. "Min-jun, what's that energy buildup in the dreadnought's core?" The engineer's face went pale. "Admiral, it's a self-destruct system. If that thing explodes, it'll take half the star system with it." Sarah's mind raced. They had defeated the enemy fleet, but now they faced an even greater threat. A weapon that could destroy entire worlds was about to detonate. "Can we stop it?" she asked. "Maybe," Min-jun said uncertainly, "but someone would have to get to the core and manually shut down the reaction. It would be a one-way trip." The bridge fell silent as everyone understood the implications. They had won the battle, but the cost of preventing catastrophe might be their lives. "I'll go," Jung-hoon said quietly. "No," Sarah replied firmly. "I'm the Admiral. This is my responsibility." "With respect, ma'am," Seo-yeon interrupted, "we all volunteered for this mission. We all knew the risks." Sarah looked around at her crew, humans who had been dismissed as primitive by their alien allies, now ready to sacrifice everything to save civilizations they had never seen. "Then we all go together," she decided. "Engineering teams to the enemy core. Let's finish what we started." The human crews worked with desperate efficiency, fighting their way through the dying alien ship to reach its heart. They had proven that human engineering could defeat advanced technology, that human determination could overcome impossible odds. In the end, they succeeded. The dreadnought's self-destruct was disabled just minutes before detonation. The Void Swarm was defeated, its ships drifting powerless in space. Later, as rescue ships arrived from the Galactic Council, General Zircon's voice came over the communication system one final time. "Admiral Chun," he said, his tone completely different from the mockery of days before. "The Council owes humanity a debt that can never be repaid. Your ships may not be the most advanced in the galaxy, but they are crewed by the bravest beings I have ever encountered." Sarah looked out at her battered fleet, scarred, patched, but victorious. Sometimes the best solution wasn't the most elegant one. Sometimes you just had to be too stubborn to quit. "That's what humans do, General," she replied. "We keep fighting until the job is done." Asterisk.